Food fraud poses a serious threat to the integrity of the food manufacturing industry. These deceptive acts not only undermine consumer trust but can also pose significant health and safety risks. Food fraud is the intentional deception of consumers for financial gain by substituting, adding, or misrepresenting food, ingredients, or packaging. Examples include diluting high-value items like olive oil with cheaper alternatives, counterfeiting brand names, or misrepresenting the origin of a product. Food fraud is regulated through laws like the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act and the Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, which require food producers to have preventive controls to address economically motivated adulteration. In the U.S., the FDA enforces these regulations, holding companies and individuals accountable through civil and criminal penalties. Companies must develop food safety plans that include vulnerability assessments and implement controls to prevent common types of fraud like substitution, mislabeling, and the use of undeclared ingredients. There are generally 5 types of food fraud methods that are found within food manufacturing systems. The categories include substitution, replacing a high-value ingredient with a cheaper one, such as adding vegetable oil to olive oil. Concealment, hiding poor quality ingredients or products from consumers. Counterfeiting, creating fake copies of a brand name, design, recipe, or packaging. Misrepresentation, falsely claiming a product is from a specific geographic region, like Parmesan cheese. An addition of unapproved substances, adding non-food items or illegal additives to increase volume or enhance a product. Food fraud substitution is the intentional replacement of a valuable ingredient in a food product with a cheaper or non-food item to deceive consumers and increase profits. Examples of food fraud substitution include syrups, using flavored corn syrup to imitate pure maple syrup. Nuts, replacing edible pine nuts with a different, potentially bitter species. Spices, bulking up expensive spices like saffron with other plant material or using cheaper, different spices like basil to pass off as a more expensive one like turmeric. Seafood, substituting more expensive fish species with cheaper ones, such as using rockfish instead of snapper. Meat, replacing expensive meat like beef with cheaper meats, such as kangaroo or horse meat. And honey, diluting honey with other sugars or syrups, or adding non-food substances to increase apparent protein content. Food fraud concealment is the act of hiding low-quality or adulterated food ingredients or products to mislead consumers for financial gain. Examples of concealment tactics are masking defects, using dyes or other coloring agents to make fruit or vegetables look fresh when they are not. Hiding illness, injecting poultry with antibiotics to reduce bacterial load and mask signs of disease during quality testing. Dilution, adding cheaper substances, like corn or sugar beet syrups, to high-value products such as honey. Mislabeling, deliberately mislabeling a product's contents, as seen in the horse meat scandal where beef products were adulterated with horse meat and falsely labeled. And blending with lower-quality products, mixing a lower quality or expired product, like juice, with a fresh one to hide the poor quality of the expired item. Food fraud counterfeiting is the intentional, economically motivated adulteration or mislabeling of food to deceive consumers. Common examples of counterfeit food include olive oil, diluted with cheaper vegetable or nut oils, or sold as extra virgin when it is not. Maple syrup, replaced with corn syrup flavored to look and taste like maple syrup. Seafood, less expensive fish is substituted for more valuable varieties. Parmesan cheese, extended with cellulose, from wood pulp, and mixed with cheaper cheeses like Swiss and cheddar. Spices, saffron is bulked up with other materials, or other ground spices are substituted for turmeric. And caviar, made from the eggs of cheaper fish and sold as authentic sturgeon caviar. Food fraud misrepresentation is the intentional deception of consumers about a food product's quality, substance, source, or value for financial gain. Examples of misrepresentation in food fraud include substitution, replacing a costly ingredient with a cheaper one, such as diluting olive oil with vegetable oil or adding cheaper sweeteners to honey. Mislabeling, placing false or misleading information on a product's label to deceive consumers. Origin, claiming a product is from a specific region when it is not. Ingredients, incorrectly labeling a product as 100% or failing to disclose all ingredients. Falsifying dates, changing expiration or production dates to make products appear fresher than they are. And exaggerating quality, using misleading terms like artisanal or organic without justification. Food fraud involving unapproved additional substances refers to the intentional, fraudulent addition of non-food or illegal chemicals, industrial materials, or cheaper, undisclosed ingredients to make a food product seem better or more valuable. The types of unapproved substances that may be added are industrial dyes and chemicals, used to enhance color, such as Sudan dyes in spices or lead chromate in seasonings. Fillers and extenders, cheaper ingredients added to bulk up more expensive products. Dairy, water, starch, or soy protein isolate in milk or cheese. Spices, cornmeal or other plant material added to ground spices like turmeric to make it look like more product. Honey, corn syrup or sugar syrups added to increase volume and lower costs. Meat and seafood, water or other cheap products to increase weight. Illegal or harmful substances. These are often added for economic gain but are not intended for human consumption. Melamine, added to infant formula to artificially increase protein readings, causing severe health issues. Methanol, added to alcoholic beverages to mimic ethanol. And chloramphenicol, an antibiotic sometimes found in honey. A food fraud prevention program uses a multi-tiered approach to reduce the risk of the fraudulent hazards. The food fraud prevention methods include vulnerability assessments, identifying points in the supply chain that are at risk of fraud. Supply chain management, implementing strategies to monitor the supply chain, including audits and ensuring all raw materials are accounted for. Testing and analysis, using analytical techniques like mass spectrometry to verify the authenticity of ingredients. Supplier verification, requesting suppliers to perform exercises to prove they can account for all quantities of raw materials. And legal and regulatory compliance, following laws and industry standards to ensure products are correctly labeled and manufactured. A food manufacturing vulnerability assessment is a systematic process to identify and evaluate risks of food fraud and intentional contamination across the supply chain. It involves analyzing ingredients, suppliers, and processing steps to find weaknesses, and then using that information to develop and implement control measures to mitigate these risks. The assessment helps manufacturers protect their products' authenticity and safety, and can be adapted to include both food fraud, for economic gain, and food defense, for malicious attacks. The vulnerability assessment steps are: identification. Systematically review each ingredient, its supply chain, and existing control measures to find weaknesses. Analysis. Evaluate the identified vulnerabilities to understand the potential for harm. Risk assessment. Evaluate the risks based on the analysis to determine the severity of each vulnerability. And remediation. Develop and implement strategies to control and mitigate the identified risks. Food manufacturing supply chain management is the process of overseeing the journey of food products from raw material sourcing to consumer delivery, ensuring efficiency, safety, and quality. It involves coordinating activities like procurement, processing, packaging, and distribution to meet consumer demand while managing costs and complying with regulations. The key processes of supply chain management include procurement, sourcing raw ingredients from suppliers, such as farmers and producers. Manufacturing and processing, transforming raw materials into finished products, including cleaning, cutting, and packaging. Distribution and logistics, moving finished products from manufacturing facilities to distribution centers, retailers, and finally to consumers. And quality control, implementing processes like inspections and audits throughout the chain to guarantee safety and compliance with standards. Food manufacturing testing and analysis involves various types of testing to ensure safety, quality and regulatory compliance, including those found in food safety hazards. The types of testing and analysis methods includes microbiological testing. Identifies and quantifies harmful microorganisms like bacteria, yeasts, molds, and viruses to prevent foodborne illnesses. Chemical testing. Analyzes for a range of components, such as pH, additives, preservatives, pesticides, heavy metals, and other contaminants. It also provides information on nutritional content for labeling purposes. Allergen testing. Verifies the absence of specific allergens to ensure accurate labeling and prevent cross-contamination. Physical testing. Assesses physical properties like texture, size, and consistency. It can also be used to detect foreign objects. Sensory analysis. Uses human senses to evaluate the flavor, aroma, texture, and appearance of a food product. GMO testing. Checks for genetically modified organisms, particularly where it is a regulatory or consumer requirement. And environmental monitoring. Tests the manufacturing environment to identify potential sources of contamination before they reach the product. Supplier verification is the process of checking a supplier's legitimacy, reliability, and capabilities to ensure they can meet business requirements, mitigate risk, and protect the company's reputation. The key verification steps in a supplier verification program include: verify legal and financial standing. The purchasing organization will request and check official documents such as business registration, incorporation certificates, and tax identification numbers. Assess quality and performance. This is accomplished through evaluating the supplier's product quality by requesting samples for testing. Additionally, reviewing their past performance, tracking record, and obtaining past and current customer feedback to gauge their reliability and ability to meet contractual obligations. Conduct audits. Performing detailed audits to review the supplier's processes, quality control, and overall reliability, especially for critical items or if specific standards like ISO 22000 need to be met. This can involve on-site visits, sampling, and record reviews. And check market reputation and history. Investigate the supplier's market reputation and the history of their owners or directors to identify any potential issues. A competitor analysis can also provide valuable context. Food manufacturing legal and regulatory compliance involves adhering to laws and standards that ensure consumer safety, product quality, and legal accountability. Compliance requires rigorous sanitation, proper employee training, equipment maintenance, accurate labeling, and end-to-end supply chain monitoring to meet local, national, and international requirements. Some key legal and regulatory expectations include Food Safety Modernization Act or FSMA. This act gives the FDA more authority to oversee the food supply chain and focuses on preventing foodborne illnesses. Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points or HACCP. A management system for identifying and controlling potential biological, chemical, and physical hazards in food production. Good Manufacturing Practices or GMP. These are the minimum requirements for food safety and hygiene, covering facility sanitation, employee training, equipment maintenance, and record keeping. Global standards. Programs like ISO 22000 and Safe Quality Food provide certification systems for all stages of the food supply chain. Labeling requirements. Mandates from acts like the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act require specific nutritional information on food and beverage labels. And Legal Metrology Act dictates that prepackaged commodities must be sold in standard quantities and include specific declarations on the packaging. Food fraud poses a serious threat to the integrity of the food manufacturing industry. Incorporating a food fraud protection program is critical to preventing the threats to the system. We hope you found this training valuable. Please click the subscribe button so you can access additional food sure training videos.